What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another preview stream for you guys, and it's a very tough test this weekend. Brighton come to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, who sit 4 points behind us with 2 games in hand. So what that means is if we do go on to lose, we are in more danger of sliding even further down the league. Not only can Brighton go within 1 point of us with 2 games in hand, it's a possibility that Aston Villa could go 3 points behind us as well, which is crazy to think about. Aston Villa.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, sorry, I thought you were carrying on there. No, considering their start to the season and Steven Gerrard was sacked at the beginning of the season and Unai Emery has come in ever since then, they've been unbelievable. Only City and Arsenal have got more points than them. So you got to say he's done a phenomenal job. And obviously they got Forest at home. You know, you expect them to win that game. For sure. So, I mean, it could be very likely that we're only sitting 3 points ahead of Aston Villa at the end of Saturday, depending on how our game goes, obviously. But it's really not beyond the realms of possibility. And to think that they could get Europa League after the start of the season they had is mad.
Yeah, it really is. And you're looking at the form of these two sides, Tottenham and Brighton, going into it. And you're struggling to think how 3 points, how we can get the job done on the weekend. Zerbi's come in, done such a fantastic job taking over from Graham Potter. You thought it couldn't get better for Brighton after Graham Potter left, and it has. You know, Zerbi has done a brilliant job. And what's he brought to Brighton that maybe Potter wasn't bringing to them?
It's a good question because Potter was always a manager to play good football and create chances. But I guess it's a different kind of chances that Zerbi's creating than Graham Potter. Graham Potter was more kind of slow build-up possession, wasn't quite the quick transitional player that Zerbi has brought to Brighton. They've kind of played the wingers. Solly March is more inverted. Obviously, Matoma didn't really get a look in under Potter, and he's obviously become a mainstay under Zerbi. They've got McAllister in a lot of more offensive positions. They've kind of changed, flirted between a back four and a back three, but at the moment they're playing with a back four, and it means that with Caicedo also they're getting a lot of turnovers, a lot of transitions, and it's putting them in positions where when they do get the chances, they're a lot more clear-cut chances than they were maybe under Graham Potter. Under Graham Potter, they would get good high volume of shots and high volume of opportunities, but a lot of the time it was opportunities where maybe they were under pressure or they snatched opportunities when there were defenders in close proximity. Under Zerbi, there are a lot more clear-cut opportunities where players can take their time a bit more, can use their composure a bit more. Not maybe there's less defenders around because they're breaking on teams. They kind of draw teams in and then they break them, they hit them very quickly. And Potter was a bit different. And not to say it was worse, but it was just different, and it wasn't as good for a team like Brighton than clearly what Zerbi's showing. So I just think he's creating better quality chances in areas where there are less defenders, whereas Potter was a bit of a slower build-up.
And if you bring up the form table for the two teams coming into it, obviously Brighton with a really good away record at the moment. In the last 6 games, 3 draws and 3 wins. Their last loss coming at home at the Amex. Spurs, for all our bad form and the bad feeling around us, I mean, we are doing fairly well at home at the moment. So does that give you a little bit more confidence coming into this?
Yeah, I think there's obviously more of an opportunity. There's more of a chance we win this game because we're at home. I think our last few home games have been actually pretty good for us in terms of results. Forest, Chelsea, West Ham, Man City. We've had some good results at home. So and Brighton don't win as many games away than they do at they do at home, although they don't lose many either. So I do think there's more of a chance as well. Brighton, in a weird way, like playing a team like Brighton, I always feel like there's actually more of a chance we beat a team like Brighton than we do a team like Everton, because we know that Brighton are going to come and try and beat us. And as well, as much as they're a solid team and they're not easy to play against, there's going to be more space for us against a team like Brighton than there would be against a team like Everton or a more defensive team. So especially with us playing at home, there is obviously a chance, and maybe there's going to be more spaces for the likes of Sonny. With them as well now going to a back four, Brighton, you know, there could be very much space for players like Porro and Perisic out wide to try and hurt this Brighton team. But I just think the Brighton team right now, how they're playing with their structure and the way they draw teams out, because we're going to have to try and play our offensive game as well, and we're going to have to try and press them at points. And the way they're playing through teams' presses at the moment and just opening teams up, and the way we're defending, it's going to be really difficult to stop. But I do think the fact that we're at home it leads to a much bigger possibility we'll win. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm just like sitting here and thinking like the law is saying like Spurs are at home, Brighton are away. Brighton obviously came and beat us, didn't they, in that game at the back end of last season, where Trossard scored in the last minute. I can't remember how the outlay of the game went.
They dominated pretty much,
and that was the last time. That was like the last time we played them in an important game, right? Earlier on this season, we beat them at the Amex.
That was like one of Zerbi's first games.
Yeah, they're a much different outfit like now as to what they were at the back end of last season, and like what are the avenues? Like coming in, I'm just so lost coming into this game, thinking any sort of way that we're going to be able to hurt them, because they're just so intense. They're going to press us so high up the pitch. They're going to put us under pressure, and we all know what happens when this team comes under pressure, even at home when this team come under pressure. So, like, give me some sort of positivity. Give me a way that we're going to win this game.
It's going to be very difficult. The mode, obviously, the biggest way we can win the game is just to try and get the front three involved as much as possible. Their defence is definitely fallible. Their defence can definitely be got at. They're a very offensive team. They definitely leave a bit of caution to the wind. Kane, Kulusevski, Son definitely have the ability to hurt their backline as much as their backline is decent. We definitely have the capabilities of hurting them. I think Jason's still in goal. He's probably better playing out from the back than Sanchez, which is why he's in the team.
Brilliant assist from October.
Got a brilliant assist, but I don't think he's that great a goalkeeper. I think they can't be got at, this team. Estepinian and whoever they're going to play on the right. It could be who do they play against Bournemouth? Let's see, because sometimes they play even Pascal Gross there, but it was Veltman. So it's a weird one with them. So they play that a back four, but it kind of molds into a back three when they're in possession, and they get Estepinian really high up. And if they do that, maybe we hit them very quickly, you can have Porro, Kulusevski kind of exploiting a lot of the spaces they leave. I think you can try and be very physical with them in the middle, although Moises Caicedo is very, very energetic, covers a lot of ground, and he's been brilliant for them. But he's coming into this with a bit of an injury worry. He did suffer a bit against Bournemouth, but the noise are he's going to be fit, but maybe he won't be at 100%, which maybe mean Højbjerg and Skip can dominate a bit more. But of course, it's going to be extremely difficult to get all 3 points because they're very well settled side. They know what they're doing under the Zerbi. It kind of it's working like clockwork, it seems, at the moment. And even in the games where they don't win, they're unlucky not to win. And like games against Brentford where they drew 3-3, where they easily should have won that game. Games against Leicester when they drew 2-2, and Leicester were very lucky to grab a point in that game. So even in games they haven't won, they've been playing really well. But I do think their defence can be got at. I don't think they do concede goals, this team. So if we can kind of stifle them as much as possible, I do believe we could get opportunities to score in this one.
If you're Roberto De Zerbi thinking about it, obviously he's got those links with Spurs at the moment for the managerial vacancy. But if you're De Zerbi, like, how are you thinking about this proposition of Spurs coming at you as for a manager? Because you've got the league standings at the moment where, you know, it's not beyond all realms of possibility, and it's probably a likelihood at this stage that Brighton are going to finish above Tottenham. He's got a settled side there, and he's got everyone singing at the same hymn sheet, where if you say he's got to come at Spurs, he's got to do, you know, quite some job to get that kind of mentality and that kind of togetherness potentially inside the Tottenham squad. Do you think he's looking at it like that and thinking, well, I've already done a good job settling in here at Brighton. I'm doing a good job. Why would I leave and go to Spurs, who are going completely the opposite direction?
I just think the way Tottenham are at the moment, I don't think there's any chance he looks at Tottenham and thinks like, this is a club which I'm happy to leave this settled project to have at Brighton, where everyone is the strategy from top to bottom is clear for everyone, and everyone is going along the same lines. At Spurs, it's just we've said a million times, we're just a mess. We have no sporting director. We have no director of football. We have no manager. There's a lot of stuff to work out at Tottenham, so the uncertainty more than anything, I think, would lead any manager like Frank, not Frank as well, but like De Zerbi, who's in a settled job. They wouldn't look at Tottenham right now, I don't think, and consider them to be a job worthy of leaving their project for. But I think De Zerbi knows that right now Brighton are doing very well, and you know that the project is all linking up. But the potential of Tottenham is very high with the you know, the money they bring in, the stadium. There is a very high potential as well. Like to be that manager, potentially to break that trophy drought which has been going on for so long, that could be something to tempt him. Like, I don't think it's obviously, like, Brighton are doing very well at the moment. It doesn't mean they're a bigger club than Tottenham, and he could see it as an opportunity. I just think right now if he had been at Brighton for a couple of years, it's a different kettle of fish. But the fact that he's only been there 7 months, I just think he would be stupid right now to jump ship and go to Spurs when there's so much uncertainty.
Fair enough. Yeah, I kind of agree, to be honest. You're looking at the head-to-head between the two clubs. Funnily enough, like, you would associate probably Spurs and Brighton when they go head-to-head, there'll be quite a lot of goals shared between them. But looking at that, I mean, 3 1-0s there in the past 5 games played, 2 1-0 losses. I mean, even a 1-0 win. I mean, can you explain that? Why is there so many, like, low-scoring games? I would have thought that these two teams would bring high-scoring games.
Because Spurs, I would say.
Because Spurs are so boring.
Yeah, because Conte's probably under Conte and Mourinho. It's pretty easy to explain that, probably. We've been very organised defence first over all these fixtures. And that probably leads to games where Brighton are trying to play their football and we're trying to stifle them, and it's lead to kind of very tight games where a lot of the time it's won by the odd goal, and a lot of the time, a few times it's been Brighton who've won it as well.
There's a lot of key matchups on the pitch. I mean, you've got to be worried about Matoma coming up against Pedro Porro this weekend.
Worried about that, for sure. Matoma has been in such good form. You have to say that he's a massive
7 goals
threat.
and 4 assists in his 15 starts this season.
Especially since the World Cup. Since the World Cup, he's been electric. And his dribbling style was so hard to stop.
I tell you what, though, I actually noticed him at the back end of last season, because Brighton were bringing him on in games in the last, like, 10, 20 minutes of games last season under Potter, and he was making impacts in games, and he is such a tricky customer. I mean, what has he got? He's got like What did he do? He wrote like a thesis on dribbling or something like that.
Yeah, he did. He on when he was doing his degree, he wrote his dissertation on dribbling and the art of dribbling, and he stuck a GoPro on his head, and he recorded himself taking people on and discussed the different movements and what works better when dribbling. So he really knows his stuff when it comes to taking people on, and it showed in the Premier League. And he's obviously really improving his final product, his decision making. That seems to be something he's really worked on. Some of the finishing he does at the highest level. His decision making and passing ability is really good, and he seems to be quite a two-footed player as well. So Matoma has been so good. I mean, he's become one of the shining lights this season, I think, especially since the World Cup. He's just been non-stop. So he's a fantastic player. And then you saw McAllister there as well. I think McAllister is one of those underrated players in the Premier League, although not probably since winning the World Cup, people are starting to take notice of him a bit more. I was a big fan of him. Like, I remember before the World Cup, I was saying Spurs should sign him, but then since the World Cup and beyond that, he's really shown himself to be one of the up and coming midfielders in the Premier League, and he's got unbelievable ability, long range shooting, creativity, close control, really good balance, finds the pockets of spaces really well, links the play really well, and I still feel like he's got more to show. He's got 7 goals, quite a few of them from penalties, but I really believe he's got even more to show than he's shown at the moment for Brighton. So he's playing really well, and I think he's one that is destined for a big move.
Yeah, and another one who we've spoken about quite a bit the last couple of weeks is Evan Ferguson, making a name for himself in the Premier League, making a name for himself for his national team as well. 18 years of age. I mean, this guy's got a big future ahead of him, doesn't he?
Definitely.
Massive.
Definitely. The way he's going, the fact that he's starting regularly for Brighton at 18 years of age is really astounding. You've got to say that really impressive from him, and the fact that Brighton have given him every opportunity as well to play in the team is really impressive. He seems like a proper old school number 9, someone who's a real big threat in the box and has got really good finishing ability, but the fact that he's physically competing with these top centre backs at 18 years of age is very impressive, and he's definitely something else to think about. He's clearly not easy to stop because he scored goals against Arsenal. He has scored goals in against other good teams. Even it doesn't matter who he scored against, but the fact that he did score against Arsenal just goes to show how impressive he's been. And he's got a massive future ahead of him, Evan Ferguson. He's definitely one as well that, if he's doing this at 18, who knows what he can achieve.
Yeah, and he just seems so far ahead of like maybe the players that we've got at 18 and the ones that we think that have got such a big future ahead of them, which is crazy to think about. Other big players, obviously Caicedo and Gross in the middle of the park. That are massive players. Caicedo nearly getting that big move in the winter to whether it be Chelsea or Arsenal. Didn't quite happen. He signed a new contract. I'm sure he'll go for even more money that was spoken about. Injuries coming into it for Brighton: Lallana, Moda, Sarmiento, Mwepu, Lamptey being a doubt.
I think Mwepu retired.
He did retire, actually. You're right. But even another player that you want to talk about is Levi Colwill, who's not getting enough props. I mean, he's been brilliant at the back for them. Yeah,
he's come in from Chelsea. And he's still quite young, but he's been super impressive. What I really like about him is his ability on the ball to progress the ball forward, and his passing range is really impressive. He's got really good composure. I still think because he's young, he sometimes gets a bit bullied and maybe loses concentration occasionally when it comes to his defensive ability. But his on the ball, he's really impressive, and if he carries on in this vein, I think he's going to be a really good centre back, and I think he's got really high potential. I've been so impressed with Colwill, to be honest. I don't think right now he's like on a level to be like a top 6 centre back just yet, but he's definitely on that journey to become one for sure. And right now, for his age, he's playing at a really high level. He's super impressive.
How do you think the game's going to go? What's your score prediction going into it?
I do think we're going to struggle, to be honest. I've seen the way Brighton play against how they open up teams like us, especially the fact that we're not so organised right now. Where Stellini is coming in, but it's more of like the same football, which the players are kind of trying to press, but only like kind of half-heartedly, and they're not really pressing with full belief. And with that in mind, that leads me to believe that we're going to be fairly easy to play through for Brighton. We're not so great right now when it comes to winning back possession very quickly or trying to press from the front. So the fact that we're not that great at doing that, they're going to maybe find it difficult to break us down once they get into our half, but they're going to find it quite easy to play through us from their half, in my opinion. So I do see us struggling. I do see us struggling to contain March and Mitoma, because it's what that's going to do is it's going to pen back our wing backs in Perisic and Porro. Because I don't think Stellini's going to trust Longley and Romero to deal with them. So they're going to be penned back, which means the space going forward isn't going to be exploited by them, which means I do believe if they condense the pitch and pin our wing-backs back, I just see us being penned back for a lot of the game, in all honesty, and I think we're going to find it very, very difficult to kind of sustain attacks, hold possession, and get the supply to the front three. So I do see us occasionally doing it, which might lead us getting a goal. But I think the way we're defending and the fact that I see Brighton pinning us back a lot without counter-attacks, I just see us losing the way we're defending at the moment, to be honest. And I do think as well, if we had any thought of maybe dominating through the centre, I think Caicedo is going to put a stop to that, because he's got so much energy. And I do see him being able to deal with Højbjerg and with Skip, especially in the second half once they tire. So I just think we're going to lose 3-1 in my honest opinion. I can't see us getting the result unless Brighton are wasteful and we can hit them on the counter and make the most of our opportunities when going forward. But I just think the way the game is going to go, I do see Brighton for a lot of the game being able to pen us in, and that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, and it's also, you think that, like, if Brighton do go up 1-0 early, I mean, that stadium is going to turn very toxic. There's already talks about protests and this and that before the game, and even talk about a lot of people not even showing up. So I think if we do go 1-0 down early and they start getting on top of us early, I think it really could come from bad to worse, and we could go and lose the game quite heavily. But I'm going to try and be a bit positive. We are at home. Brighton, look, they are drawing games away quite regularly, 3 in their last 5, against teams as well that aren't in the greatest form. So without too much sense, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw in this game, and hopefully we can take away a point. And that's the state it's come to, where you got Brighton coming to Tottenham and you're not even confident that you can even get a point, never mind 3 points. That's the state it's come to. But I want to know your predictions in the comment section below. That is our match preview for the game against Brighton. But we have had an official announcement from the club, a club statement. And let's read it out for you guys. We are delighted to announce the appointment of Scott Munn as Chief Football Officer. Scott will be joining the club's board and will take charge of all footballing departments. As referenced in the chairman's statement, there has been an ongoing review over the past 6 months of all our footballing activities. Changes have been made and further improvements continue to ensure future progress and competitiveness. Scott, former City Football Group executive, has extensive experience within sporting organisations, having started his career with the Sydney Organising Committee for the 2000 Olympic Games and then transitioning into National Rugby League before joining the Australia Football League. Scott joined Melbourne City FC as CEO in 2010. In 2019, he was appointed CEO of the City Football Group in China. Daniel Levy says Scott has a unique and broad experience of running sporting organisations at the highest level and will take responsibility for the leadership and management of our football activities and instill the best practice both on and off the pitch.
I do think this is pretty significant news, to be fair, following the Paratici debacle. And it does seem as though, as much as David Ornstein has tweeted saying that Tottenham to appoint Scott Munn, not related to Paratici's situation, if Paratici returns, he and Academy and the women's team will report to Scott Munn. So he's claiming that Scott Munn will be Paratici's boss, but I don't think it's a coincidence that we've appointed him with Paratici in the trouble he's in. I do think it's a contingency. It seems like he's going to be a replacement for Paratici. The fact, because Paratici was supposed to be in charge of all our footballing activity, wasn't he? So the fact that they've said that about Scott Munn, they've just given him a different title, I guess, for the time being, for legal reasons, while Paratici can't be fired or whatever it is, whatever the reasons for keeping him on are. I just think that's probably the thing. In terms of his experience is very different to Paratici, who spent obviously a lot of his time in the game at the top level of European football with Juventus, but whereas Scott Munn seems to be doesn't seem to have been in Europe. So look, he might have done a great job in Australia and in China and whenever he was, but look, we have to wait and see how I'm sure he knows, European football is so global. I'm sure he knows a lot about it, but it doesn't seem to have worked within it. So that is a bit of a concern. But look, I don't know his career personally. Maybe he's a great fit for the club, and maybe he'll be able to bring a bit of stability, because we needed that. And to be honest, for me, look, I can't pass judgment on his career or his ability, because I don't know much about him. But I do think it's significant that we've got someone through the door very quickly. I do think he'll aid with the manager search when it comes to Tottenham having that stability and a project and trying to entice new managers to the club. I think having someone now at the helm where they can say, look, we've got Scott Munn, he's going to be head of the strategy, and we can maybe start building that football strategy again with him. I think that's really important, because the longer that we went without someone there, and with Paratici under the business he's under, I think the harder and harder it would have been to actually convince a manager to come here. But I think this is a step in the right direction. Just the fact we've got someone in there. Not to say he's the right guy, I don't know. I can't say to that. But I think just having someone in there is very important.
And Postecoglou in then.
Maybe he might. Well, honestly, yeah, because he's always worked on Australia a lot, so the rumours would definitely be there, and he might be a big fan of Postecoglou. I've spoken to a couple of Australians actually, who I'm friends with, and they say that Postecoglou's brilliant, but obviously he's not been tested at the highest level, has he? So,
what's his name's brilliant in Australia. That Arsenal defence, Jenkinson's brilliant in Australia.
Carl Jenkinson.
Yeah,
is he there in Australia?
But no, I think it's interesting, because the way that David Ornstein was saying that Fabio Paratici, if he does come back, he'll report to Munn, which feels like it's just kind of Daniel Levy putting a layer between him and Fabio Paratici now.
Maybe. I think it's a good thing. I think he needed to do this. I think I'm happy the club are being proactive about the situation, not letting it rumble on, and not letting it rumble on to the appeal, and whatever happened to the appeal, and then dealing with it then. I'm happy that they got someone in the door who can deal with the footballing strategy of the club and footballing activities, because we didn't want it to be left to Levy for too long while Paratici is under appeal. So I think it's a positive step. I'm happy about this, because I think it puts the club back on the path that we need to go on, which is finding a new manager to take this club forward. And the longer that whole situation rumbled on, I don't think any manager was coming here while that situation was rumbling on. So hopefully it kind of is the first step to putting that to bed.
It's also a positive in a sense that that maybe this is a signal that Daniel Levy won't be heading up the managerial search on his own like we thought before, and maybe this guy will be more of an influence in bringing in the new manager. As it says, he'll be head of all footballing operations. So I guess it's a positive thing. We don't know the work he has done, because it's been all kind of outside of Europe, in Australia and in China. I guess we're going into a bit of an unknown, because nobody really knows about it, but hopefully it is something positive, and we'll be looking back at this appointment in a positive light in a year or so's time. So hopefully the manager situation won't rumble on for 72 days like it did last time.
You'd have to think they've done a lot of research into this guy, and there must be a reason that they've
but how many of these guys have we brought in the past that haven't worked? Do you know what I mean?
I think a lot of them have worked, to be honest.
Yeah, a lot of them have.
I think a lot of them have been good. I think Arneson was good. I thought Kamoli was underrated. Mitchell was very good. But then Baldini was not very good, and Hitchin was not very good. So, a bit of a mixed record.
Yeah. Exactly, but that is the breaking news from the club. It looks as though the replacement for Fabio is here, albeit they're not calling it the replacement for Fabio, and they probably will do after the appeal process is done and completed. But that is the breaking news coming out from the club today. Now it is your chance to have your say. Do we have any guests waiting? Has anyone joined?
Seeing what the reaction is, and I do think as well that hopefully anyway it keeps Levy even more distancing himself from footballing operations, and which is the important thing.
That's what we need. That's the most desperate thing in this football club at the moment. Is just keep this guy away from footballing activities. Stay building your hotels, making your go-karting tracks, bringing in your Beyoncés, you know what I mean? Stick to that. Stick to what you're good at. Leave the footballing side to footballing people, because enough is enough now. Seriously.
Yeah. And so I think that's positive. I can't see anything but it being a positive that they've made this decision, in my opinion.
Andrew Dean in the comments is saying, are there any free Italian job shirts going? Well, it's funny you should say that, because there are free Italian job shirts going. Whoever wants one, you have to come and get it. Collection only.
Feel free. If anyone knows anything about this Munn guy and how his jobs have done, do put it in the comments or let us know, and we'll react to it. But I'm intrigued to know how he has done at his previous jobs. But it does seem to be in Australia and in China, so it doesn't seem to be someone who's got high level experience of running successful teams and top level European football. Transitioning into the National Rugby League as well, it says. So he was also in charge of the rugby, which is peculiar, I would say. But look, maybe he knows what he's doing. He must do if they've appointed him. But
you would hope so. You would hope so. Let's hope he's a fan of Pochettino.
In terms of his just in terms of experience, though, it does seem fairly odd with that experience, but. Maybe that's what we need. I don't know. It's a bit strange.
Nathan Clark saying this seems like a role in between director of football and Levy, with further distancing Levy from football operations and decisions.
Good.
That's what he thinks.
Well, yeah, it makes sense. It does make sense.
But no one can seem to tell us what he's done in these roles in the football club, and you know, if he's a good guy for the role. No one can tell us that.
Yeah, we don't know. What do we know? Yeah, we won't be able to say, but I do think it's positive news. The further Levy gets away from football, the better.
And we do finally have our new first guest of the day, and he goes by Ash Matic.
Yo, my people.
Yes, Ash. How's it going, man?
Yes, my people. I'm good, man. How are you lot?
Yeah, good. Well, apart from footballing things, everything's good. Football is quite depressing at the moment, not going to lie. But the breaking news from the club today about Scott Munn to come in to take charge of all footballing departments, apparently not related to the Fabio Paratici news. What did you make out of this?
Yeah, I just heard about the rugby situation, and he said Australia. And I was like, no, we want football. We want a football guy. We don't want a rugby guy.
Well, to be honest, there is Saracens are playing Harlequins in the rugby in the stadium in a few weeks, so maybe that's what it's to do with.
Oh,
maybe
is it one of those ones?
Maybe we're making a rugby team.
Maybe we're moving away from football. We're going to rugby Spurs. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Tottenham
I know
Hotspur rugby
nothing.
department.
Yeah. I know absolutely nothing about this guy. So let's hope they've done their due diligence and they've done their homework and they're not rushing things, because there's absolutely no rush to get this guy in. So yeah, let's hope it's all good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, when you say no rush to bring him in, I mean, there kind of was a rush, wasn't there? Because everything is just so up in the air at the moment. We need some clarity of the direction of this football club.
We do, but I mean, in terms of like, I'd rather them take a little longer if that meant that we got the right person in,
Of
rather
course.
than rushing in now, like with 10 games to go or 9 games to go, sorry, and getting it wrong just to save their face because things are going, from bad to worse. I'd rather them take like another or extra 3 or 4 weeks. Do you know what I mean? Just to get that right. But because there are people in their other positions that were underneath um, Paratici, do you know what I mean? They're working alongside him, so they would have known his practices and the way he works, etc., etc. So I'd have expected them to step in somewhat, a little bit. Do you know what I mean? But you know what? Let's see what this guy can do. Like I said, I've got no real opinion on him because I don't know anything about him. We're just going to have to wait and see and hope for the best. That's to say, if Paratici doesn't come back, maybe they know something we don't, and Paratici is coming back. But by the looks of it, yeah, it's not looking great at the moment,
Yeah,
in
it
my
looks like
opinion.
they're just holding on to that one till the very end, right till the very
Yeah.
very end. But look, big game this weekend. Brighton. If we lose this weekend, it ain't looking good for us. We'll be a point above Brighton and they'll have 2 games in hand or something silly like that. And if Aston Villa win and we lose, then we'll be 3 points above Aston Villa only going into the last 8 or 9 games of the season. How are you looking at this game coming into it, and what are the dangers that Brighton are going to pose for us?
It's a mad one because don't Brighton have like 2 or 3 games in on hand on us? Um,
2 games at
if
the
if
moment,
they win
yeah.
their games, yeah, 2 games. If they win their 2 games in hand, then yeah, they go above us. And then I'm pretty sure Brentford are not far away from us either. So it's not even just Aston Villa that we're looking over our shoulder. We might actually end up in like, 7th or possibly 8th, which I know quite a few fans wouldn't be mad at if we dropped out of Europe altogether, because that means we could focus on one game at a week and slowly build up that way. But in terms of Brighton, what to look at, who to look out for. I'm gonna be. It's a mixture. I'm gonna look at Pascal Gross, and McAllister. The reason being is they're they're the type of players that I think they're kind of link players. So when Brighton are building out from the back, Grosh is versatile. He could play as a right back or right full back. He can play as a double pivot, and he can also play as an attacking mid. He can also play wide, and those are the areas we often see him in. We often see him in those positions where he's arriving late. He's playing like a box-to-box midfielder. He does play alongside Casado, but when they're building out from the back, he's often the player that moves into the empty space, collects the ball, and then it goes forward into McAllister. McAllister drops from that kind of attacking midfielder role, and then he gives it to Casado. Casado's then able to kind of pick out either your Matomas or your Fergusons or even your Solly Marshes, which are going to be very dangerous to us. So I think those 2 players, if we can stop balls coming into like your Grosses or your McAllisters, that could disrupt their attacking displays, their attacking football. Do you know what I mean? Because they transition very quickly. They kind of build their confidence through the back. And then all of a sudden, it's like a quick transition counter-attacking football, and they can play through us very quickly. And it's very easy for their players to play in between the lines, get in between us. And their wire players go from outside to in, and then their fullbacks also do their underlapping runs, and sometimes they pull out wide as well, which just causes us so much problems. And they can attack with either a 4 or sometimes a 5, which is going to pin us back a lot. Do you know what I mean? So, what I saw as well against Brentford with it, they can also go very direct very quickly. So I've seen their keeper just play out from the back, direct one route football, and I saw a ball go into Matoma not once but twice. Second time, Matoma, he lobbed the keeper and he finished it first time on the half volley. So they can do that as well. So as much as people might say, oh, I want Tottenham to, be aggressive, front-footed and press Brighton, if you press them, the spaces in behind and they can hurt you very quickly as well through that type of transitional play. So it's a tricky way. They've got more than one way to hurt you.
That's what they want as well. They want you to press because then they draw you in and they play those very quick passing exchanges.
Exactly. So I wouldn't be surprised if Spurs do let them have a little bit of the lion's share of possession. And I wouldn't be surprised if they find it harder for us to break that down because we're sitting a little bit deeper with the back three and the back two a little bit closer to each other because they like to play quite centrally and play through teams. But I think basically with Romero and Porro, they're going to have to play and work well together in tandem to stop your Estepinias and your Matomas because they like to attack down that left-hand side. So those two are going to have to be switched on and they're going to help each other to stop that attack. And then equally on the opposite side, we've got our work cut out because Perisic obviously likes to get forward quite a bit, being our most attacking wing back. You're going to have to use Højbjerg to help us out a lot, to help out your Clement Lenglet's in that position because Solly March, Gross, Ferguson, they're going to be able to float over to those sides. And they're also very interchangeable. They're going to cause us a lot of problems. Even McAllister, he's going to be able to drift in between the lines and cause us problems and hurt us. So we're going to have to be, I think that's going to be our weakest side, to be fair. And I just think, Højbjerg, unfortunately, and Eric Dyer as well, I think the problem with Spurs is the concentration levels. Because I think that's when we switch off. Like you saw at half time, Højbjerg was doing a massive talk. Like, come on, boys, we need all of this, doing his leadership skills and all of that. And then he switched off. He was one of the players that switched off. And I think that's one of our biggest problems. Especially Eric Dyer as well, has a tendency to switch off. And when you got teams like Brighton, they kind of play through the lines and they pass very quickly and they're interchangeable. And also their movement's very good off the ball as well. That's what causes Spurs the problems. Because you're not switched on as a defender, they're going to find it easier to counter us or to kind of make those transitions a bit quicker, a bit faster. So it's not so much... And also one-to-ones as well. One-to-one, I think Eric Dyer is not really good on a one-to-one. I don't think Longley is even that good when it's one-to-one. And Perisic is not really good on one-to-ones either. And I think they are going to cause us problems in that particular area when it comes to one-to-one situations and areas.
So, Ashmatic, how do we get a result in this game? Tell me.
The best thing to do for Spurs, I personally think, because they're going to be having a lot of the ball, we're going to soak up a lot of the pressure. I would say to Sonny, although like when we don't have the ball, I know he's going to be asked to be in field a lot, but I would like Sonny to pull wide, albeit that Perisic is in that wide position as well. I don't see a problem with him pulling wide as well. A bit like Matoma and Estupiñán. I think he can pull wide with Perisic, and I think there's going to be space in behind because they're going to be pressing so high. And I know Casado's going to be looking out for those runs, but I do think defensively, Brighton can be got at because when you hit them directly and you hit them very quickly, you saw it against Brentford. Brentford hit them with the set pieces. When they went wide, they were crossing balls into boxes and they were getting the better of Lewis Dunk when they were switching off. Do you know what I mean? And their players were running in between their centre halves and fullbacks. So there is a point where we can exploit. In the opposite fixture as well, the reverse fixture, that we played against them at their ground, we did find some joy when we went direct and we played balls into Kane, and Kane was able to turn Lewis Dunk and get his shots off. So I think sometimes just bypassing the midfield, quickly doing a switch of play can disrupt them. And I think Ollie Skip did well against Nottingham Forest when he found Richarlison, when he did a quick over the top ball into Richarlison, and Richarlison scored, but obviously that was ruled off for offside. But I think if we can switch the play quick, if we can hit the ball long and we can go direct, then we can create big key moments. And the fact that the teams they do well against, those are the teams that like to press a lot, but we don't necessarily press high. We press in the midfield. So, and we play with a back three, a little bit similar to what Brentford were doing. So I think with that being said, there is some opportunity for us to play down the channels, to play wide, to maybe utilize someone like Porro as well. Porro is going to have openings every now and then, and when we have our chance, we just have to take advantage
Maybe we
and
should
make the
go
most of our
3-5-2 then, Ash.
opportunities.
Maybe we should go 3-5-2.
3-5-2 would be a good shout because you put an extra man in the midfield, and it kind of helps us. It helps players like your Højbjerg and Skips because at times they can switch off and maybe put a youngster in there, someone that has a bit more legs, someone that has a bit more mobility, just to help those two midfielders out. Because sometimes, or not sometimes, a lot of the times in previous games, we've been overrun. We've been overrun in midfield, and that can be the difference a lot of the time. So I think we got a lot of youngsters coming into the first team now. So before I was a bit worried to play a 3-5-2 because if someone like Star gets injured, then we'd have no players to bring in. But now we're looking at Devine, we're looking at Mundell. Those two players on the bench, they could possibly come on because again, the concentration levels drop off around the 65th minute, around the 70th minute, and that's what's costing us games. We're also losing our shape a lot of the times when we're in when we don't have the ball, and teams press us. And I think that's what Brighton are going to do. They're going to see what happened against Everton. They're going to see what happened against Southampton, and then they're going to look to press us. And they press in bunches. So I feel like if they press us in a bunch, like as in they target one area, then that frees up one area for us, and a quick switch of play can help us get out of that kind of press, if that makes sense. And then we can spring an attack on them, and then hopefully we score a goal, and then it's just coming down to discipline. Spurs lack discipline in certain areas in that midfield, and that's where we concede so many shots, we concede so much possession, and we just don't look like a team with anything about us. So in my opinion, if the front three ain't working and we're not getting balls, maybe sacrifice one of the front three. I don't know who. Lots of people are saying Son because he hasn't really been working well. Because I feel like in that position he plays more in a midfield role rather than a wide forward role, and a lot of the time he plays with his back to goal, and his first touch is going back to goal a lot of the time. Which is obviously trying to help the team because we're trying to help progressively forward. I
think
understand
if you move that formation, you have to play Son there because he's the only threat in behind. If we play Cocaine and Kulusevski up front, there's no threat in behind there. So I think you have to play them. We have to play Son.
Yeah. I mean, I agree, but I know a lot of people have been calling for Son because of his performances have been subpar. But I do understand in the 3-5-2, you kind of want Sonny to kind of stay up top, right?
If I remember rightly, when we beat them at the Amex early in the season, it was one of the Zerbi's early games. We actually did switch to a 3-5-2. We played Basuma, Højbjerg, Bentancur, and it was one of our better games. So maybe that is the way. Maybe they would consider it. But maybe he's thinking with Sarr, Skip, and Højbjerg, maybe he doesn't trust them. But I think I would do that.
Yeah, but do you guys think that potentially that he might be working on something completely new? I mean, he did kind of allude to it in the press conference that they have been working on something new. Do you reckon that something new is a 3-5-2, or are we looking something completely outside the box?
I think it could be a 3-5-2 because I think defensively, I don't think he trusts the defenders to go into a 4 at the moment. And I don't think, unless he just wanted to match Brighton, which wouldn't be a good idea, like to match them completely tactically in formation, I don't think Spurs players are as confident as playing out from the back. And I think a 3-5-2, if you've got three midfielders, that gives you another option to pass into. It allows like one of your midfielders to join the back three if need be. So you've got a passing option because Hugo Lloris isn't as good as their goalkeeper from playing at the back. Their keeper comes out and he makes a back three, whereas our goalkeeper takes just like a half a second too long on the ball. And so if there's another option where one of our midfielders could drop and they're a bit more confident to help out the back three and play out from the back, then that could help us progress the ball up the pitch. So maybe that could be something that we're looking at. Whereas Brighton are very confident playing out from the back, and they've got like the reason why they got high percentages of possession is because they play out from the back and they play it out from the back well. And I feel like just another midfielder could help deal with the threat of like a McAllister or a Groff for picking up those players in those certain zones. So a change of formation, a change of tact could help. And just keeping the midline, not pressing too high and not dropping too deep to invite them on can actually help Spurs, I think, in my opinion. So we'll see anyway. We'll see what happens and see if we switch things up.
Score prediction, Ash?
Oh, yeah. Oh, jeez.
It's time to get real, man.
Yeah, it's time to get real. You're right. I don't know. I feel indifferent about it because of the reverse fixture. There's a glimmer of hope, and it's typical because when we're Spursy, we'll do something like against Everton. We drop points against Southampton when we're meant to win, and in the game you don't expect us to do well in, we probably do well in.
So we'll draw.
But I'm gonna sit on the fence, and I'm gonna go 2-1 Spurs. Come on, Spurs.
That's not sitting on the fence. That's going all in. Come on.
Deluded. Hey, deluded, bro. I lost my marbles.
Ash, Sean Butler's going to be coming with you with all the receipts this weekend after we lose.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
Hopefully I can burn those receipts.
Yeah, you
Cool,
can.
my brother. Peace out. Love people.
See you there, man. Let's go through a few super chats. Jory the Joricle says, sounds like a cheap yes man, talking about Munn. Catman Jess, member for 20 months, says, Ben, Sim isn't catching you in Predict the Prem. Big up. You heard it here first. Catman Jess.
I beg to differ.
And Jory with another super chat says, Lloris was a big part of the collapse against Everton. Would you agree with that?
I wouldn't say I wouldn't put it all on Lloris because obviously he did play his part because he was putting people under pressure and stuff like that. I think Forster would have been as well asked to play the ball short, so I don't think it would have helped that much having him there. I do think Forster would have come for more crosses and helped with that situation, but I think the players out on the outfield have to take responsibility for their lack of composure. It wasn't just down to the way we play out the back. It was the players, when we were in possession, just panicking all the time, and you can say, well, it's because they're under pressure, but they have the extra man, so they should be able to deal with that and find the extra man when they're under pressure against 10 men, not just bottle it and boot it away all the time. So I think he has to take responsibility, Lloris, for sure. He's part of it, but I wouldn't put more than anyone else on him.
All right, let's move on to our next guest, and he goes by the name of Mikey. Hi, Mikey.
Hey guys, you alright?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm not too bad. In the midst of my busiest university time of the year, but still found some time to come on here because I saw the public link, so I thought, why not?
Talk to me about Scott Munn, our new chief football officer. What do you think he's going to bring to the club?
Well, I did when I saw the announcement, I did a little bit of research. He was the head of the City Football Group China thing, so I read about that, and I don't know much about him. I've seen reports that like if Paratici if his appeal is correct, he'll come back and work under Munn, not like replace him. So it's like apparently it's like going to be a power thing where Munn's like chief of all football, and it's like Paratici will focus on one specific thing. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out, given that Paratici likes to have, we've seen he didn't want Pochettino because he likes to keep some power for himself. So we'll see what that works out. As in, I hope there's not like a power struggle in the club, but somebody tells me Paratici's ban will not be uplifted. But anyway, aside from that, I don't know. I don't know. Michael Edwards is relatively unknown when he came into Liverpool, and look what he did. So I don't know. I don't know enough about him to really predict what will happen, but I hope it leads to an upturn in strategy in the market at least.
And moving on to the game this weekend. I mean, a very difficult game. Brighton, high-flying Brighton at the moment, really on amazing form. I mean, tell me away, how are Spurs going to get any points out of this game?
Are we going to them, or are they? No, they're coming to us, aren't they? We're at home this one. Doesn't really matter, to be honest. I'm not sure how this game's going to go, because they have some absolutely amazing players. Because with Emerson out, Mitoma versus Porro is going to be that's going to be a very interesting battle. I think it'll be very, very cool to see. Again, I feel like the game's going to be won or lost in the midfield, because they have an outstanding midfield. They've got obviously Moises Caicedo and Alexis McAllister, but underrated players like Solly March, who have been great this season, not necessarily a midfielder, more of a wide player, but they've got some very, very good quality in positions that we just can't match them for it, like a creative midfielder. So I feel like it's going to be a very hard fought game. If Tottenham do win it, that's great, but it's still top four slipping away with Man United and Newcastle's games in hand. So it looks like we're fighting for fifth with Brighton now, unless Newcastle have some sort of collapse. It's, but then again, we'll wait and see what happens. But I'm of the opinion that this game against Brighton is make or break until that 3-game period when we play like Liverpool, Newcastle. I feel like this is a bit of a make or break game until that point. So if we lose this, I think we can pretty much say goodbye to Champions League football next year. But if we win it, then, that's a good win against a very surprising rival for the position that we're currently facing.
In terms of like how we approach this game, like formation or personnel or anything, would you change anything? Would you keep with the 3-4-3? Do you think he has a choice but to keep with the 3-4-3? How do you think he thinks about the lineup?
There's one change I'd make, and that would be making Ryan Mason the head and making Stellini the assistant. Because we've all kind of heard the reports about Mason screaming at the players and shouting at Stellini and going absolutely berserk on the sidelines when I was watching that shit show against Everton. So that would be like my change. But I think the personnel we've got, that's going to be one of the toughest challenges for any incoming coach, let alone now, is that we've got players designed for a 3-4-3 system. We've got wing backs, we've got centre backs that can't necessarily play in a 2, because a 2 of Longley and Romero, because obviously you'd play Longley, you wouldn't play Dyer in a 2. You play Longley and Romero in a 2. That doesn't fill me with confidence. That really doesn't. And Perisic is an out left back, doesn't fill me with confidence either. Because obviously, if we had Ben Davis in that position, he would, he's played as a natural left back before. That would be a good position for him, but we don't. He's out injured, and Cess isn't fully ready to come back yet. So Perisic is an out left back, worries me. Porro as an out right back would worry me. So we do have to play a 3 at the back. So it'll probably be a 3-4-2-1 with. I mean, Danjuma's been wheeled out for his Ramadan appearance, but he hasn't played. So it will be Son, Kulu, and Kane.
Mm-hmm.
It worked so well last season. It's just not working now. It'll be the same lineup, because injuries and a touch of stubbornness will not allow us to change much, unfortunately.
What's your prediction then for the game?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm smiling a lot, but that's because I'm smiling a lot because I'm smiling through the pain. I think it's going to be Recently I've done a lot of research into Brighton for a project that I'm doing for my journalism class, and I have to say they look on top of the world right now. I'm going to go 2-1 to Brighton, unfortunately.
2-1 to Brighton.
They've been barnstorming it this season, and I don't see us being able to. I see us having a lot of the ball, but I don't see us doing much with it as usual. So I see a Brighton win. I see Kane scoring, but I see them having too much quality in the final third for us to deal with them with our relegation quality defence. So yeah, I have to go 2-1 to Brighton, and seriously, they're going to win. They are going to win. It's inevitable.
Thanks for the confidence, Mikey.
Yeah. No, it's just I can't, because of all that I said. I've done the research. I've looked so deep into Brighton this season for a project, and I just can't see a way that Tottenham can match them. I just don't, unfortunately. But if I'm proved wrong, then I will be a happy bunny. Okay, if I'm proved wrong.
Fair enough. Thanks for coming on, Mikey.
You're welcome, guys.
See you later.
See ya.
All right, that is Mikey. Next up is Roshan. Roshan, how are you, my friend?
Hello, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
I'm fine. And what about you?
Yeah, not bad, my friend. I mean, Mikey couldn't give us any confidence about a win. Can you find out a way? Can you tell us a way how we're going to win this game this weekend?
Unfortunately, no, because when you look at the two teams, there's a big difference, in my opinion, the way both teams play. Because when you look at Tottenham, the club is managerless and it's in a mess and just don't know how to play in terms of a proper football style. But when you look at the Zerbi's Brighton, it's totally different. That's why the fact that it's our home and I'm not confident tells the situation at the club in this moment, and it's the case for the last 4 years, unfortunately. When you make a combined 11 for both Brighton and Tottenham, I don't think, in my opinion, only one player gets into Brighton team from our team at the moment, and that's Harry Kane. The other 11, I don't think there's a much difference, and I think Brighton have better players, at least in defense, than Tottenham. That's what makes them better in the table if they win their games in hand. So our defense has not been strengthened in the last summer. We had, unfortunately, Eric Dyer and Ben Davies both had good seasons last season. I couldn't say good seasons, but just it was some form. That's why a club thought we shouldn't replace them. And unfortunately, we bought just the worst centre-back at Barca. And now that's what made us struggle this season. Because if you look at Lloris, Dyer, Davies, if you put proper players in there, instead of them, if you remove the errors they made, I can believe that there's 10 points that they cost us, and this put us in a very good position in the table. So the fact that Brighton is in a very, very good form under the Zerbi, which she is attracted by many clubs, and we are managerless and don't know how to play, I can't say how we win this game. And I think we lose, and in a very bad way, unfortunately.
In terms of changes and personnel, would you keep it the same? Do you think Stellini will keep it the same? Can he change it?
It's up to him, but the fact that I have to give a bit of I have to feel sorry for him, because we have had many injuries this season in terms of our best players, Bentancur, the other players, our backup players. So I don't think he has a big score to change. That's why he will have to keep it same, 3 at the back, and which will end up in a bad way again, unfortunately. Yeah, and I don't think we will get Champions League this season with the games left, with the manager we have at the moment, and that's why the only scare of mine is I hope we will get at least Europa League, because if we get Conference League, that's just absolutely a mess after getting Champions League. and you cannot rule out Tottenham getting the Conference League. The teams we have around us, Aston Villa have a very good form. Liverpool, you never know. Like, it's Liverpool at the end of the day, and Brighton, if they win their games in hand, they go above us. We can't win our games in hand. Like, we can't win our games simply. And the above, I think top four is done in Newcastle and Manchester United. It would be not concrete to say done, but I don't think we are getting Champions League next season. I think we are having a very bad end to the season, like United had last season without a manager. So we are in that situation at the moment. With Conte staying, it's a different situation. But the fact that we are managerless, how can I have a hope beating Manchester United, beating Liverpool at Anfield, beating Brighton tomorrow? We can go and beat Bournemouth, yeah, but other games, I see us losing many, many points. That's why we are in trouble, in my opinion. At least this season, at least some things start to change. But this season, we will end in a trouble, and I think every honest fan can see this.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with that, to be honest. Roshan, what's your score prediction for the game?
Score prediction, I think 3-1 Brighton, unfortunately.
I hope not, Roshan. I hope not. I'm going.
I hope so. I have as well.
To be honest, Roshan, if we do win tomorrow, will that give you any sort of hope that we can maybe finish in the top four?
Yeah, because obviously Brighton is a big rival in terms of that top four spot, and if we win the game, playing a good football, that changed the situation. That gives me belief into Stellini, Mason. That's upon tomorrow. Yeah, that's a great game to prove people wrong, but it will be very tough, very hard.
We'll see how it goes tomorrow, Roshan. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, guys. See you. Bye.
See you. Bye. Let's keep going, guys. Who do we have next? We've got someone sealing next.
Yeah, go on, bring him on.
Josh, I thought we'd have to speak to your ceiling there for a second. What's going on? You're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, lads. The ceiling is talking. What's going on?
You don't want to speak about Spurs so much, so you just come on and leave your ceiling to talk to us.
Mate, that's probably better for your viewers to watch that for the next half an hour than it is to talk about Tottenham. There's probably more to talk about in my ceiling, mate, than there is on Tottenham at the moment.
Talking of ceilings, Josh, have we hit our ceiling this season? Are we getting top four?
I love it, Sim. Love the wordplay, mate. It's switched on, boys. Switched on this Friday bank holiday, man. Love it. Yeah, I mean, look, I think if we get top four, it'll be a miracle. I think that the team don't deserve to get top four. I think the only hope we have is playing Newcastle and Man United. I believe we've got them in our fixtures. So we've got an opportunity to reduce that gap. But I think if you look at the brand of football and obviously off the pitch, what's going on, I think everyone would say now 95% of this Tottenham fan base would have to say we don't deserve top four at the moment. But football's a funny game. Football's a week-to-week sport, and you can change it in 7 days, and you can change it in 14. So whilst we can all sit here, moan and cry, let's be honest, guys, we win tomorrow in your post-match fan cams, and the next 7 days, everyone's talking about Tottenham being in the top four, including the pundits on television. So, you know what I mean? It can change, man. One result can change. You know, beating Brighton can give the boys confidence to then beat Bournemouth. And if we get 2 wins, home wins, get the crowd behind us, we can go into that third game. I don't know who it is after Bournemouth.
It's Newcastle away.
That's it. Going to Newcastle with our tails up, and if we then win or draw, then yeah, we're in the top four. But yeah, if we lose tomorrow, then I'm sorry. I know it's mathematically possible, but come on, man. I mean, you know, with the injuries, with the brand of football, you know, big up the Spurs fans. I think we can still do it. But for me, it's done tomorrow if we don't win tomorrow.
Yeah, there was a club statement an hour or two ago about Spurs appointing a chief football officer in Scott Munn. Never worked in Europe. He's been involved in football in Australia. He's been involved in national rugby leagues and in China as well. Do you think it's a good appointment? Are you excited with this appointment? Do you know anything about it?
I don't really know much about it. I heard it about 15 minutes ago when I was waiting in the back end. But is he a commercial guy, did you say?
No, he's going to be in
Chief
charge of all
officer.
footballing departments.
Okay, these big names, sometimes we don't really understand or get insight into what they're going to do. But I mean, on the pitch, I think recruitment's the biggest problem, isn't it? You know, it's getting out some dead wood, it's getting in some young talent,
Apparently,
and
if
turning.
Paratici
Yeah.
returns, he'll be working under him.
Okay, because I heard, was it what's his name, Greta Steinson or whatever his name is?
Yeah.
The guy who's there now. So if they're rebuilding that team, which they have to, and that we have to look at life after Paratici now, because it looks like it's going to happen. And I think the damage Paratici is doing to the Tottenham brand, to the Tottenham, Tottenham values, having someone on board who's possibly a cheat or a fraud, I don't think he's going to be there too long, man. I mean, obviously innocent until proven guilty in it, so we can't say anything right now. We have to wait. But let's just say he's not going to be there. At least they're doing something about it now. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather have someone in there than Levy doing it all on his own. I mean, A, is he capable to do all of it on his own? And B, does he even have the time to run the club and do the recruitment and do this and do that and negotiate and all that stuff? So at least they're doing something, lads. At least they're doing something. And time will tell. But his CV don't look too strong from what you just said there. There's not a lot of depth there, is there? He's not been at big clubs.
Well, yeah, his CV is Scott is a former City Football Group executive, has extensive experiences with sporting organisations such as the Sydney Organising Committee for the Olympics, National Rugby League, Australian Football League, and he joined Melbourne FC as CFO, as CEO in 2019, and the City Football Group in China as well.
Right. See, that sounds to me, and I'm not super duper corporate, but that sounds to me more commercial with maybe a hand in recruitment. I'm not sure that's a pure football man there in terms of football on the pitch football. Yeah. I think he's going to be more back end. I think he's going to be a hybrid, and he might be another sort of guy that can feed back up to the club and say, this is what we should do. But look, you know what? Revenue growth and all that is great, and we need revenue growth to reinvest back on the pitch. So if it brings revenue growth, that's great. But as long as that money's put back on the pitch, I ain't going to complain, because we need money to buy players this summer. So whatever link-ups you can do with these rugby leagues and other football leagues, great. But it's all got to show on the pitch, hasn't it? It's all got to show in recruitment. We need to get the defender in. We need to get Maddison in. We need to get a Perisic replacement. We need to get backup for Perisic. We need to get a backup for Ben Davis, Longley. There's so much work to do this summer, lads. It's pretty much, I reckon, about 30-40% of that squad needs to be upgraded as it stands, minimum.
Yeah, if not more. Yeah, minimum, exactly.
Yeah, so as many people possible that can jump on. But, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. You'd rather have one amazing guy than like three guys that's just come to Tottenham for a job and they don't have great links or they've not done great things. So, we don't want to be this club that gives people 3-4 years to sort of learn their trade. We want people that have done this in the big time. And to be fair to Paratici, I thought you'd done some good things, man. I know there's a lot of people saying, this, that, the other, but I think generally 70% of his signings were right. I think so. And I think Destiny Udogie will be another good signing. We'll see that next season as well. So I don't think he's done a bad job. I just think Paratici is dirty. And if you're dirty, then, there's the club's bigger than any of these kind of cowboys, if you know what I mean, that play tricks and stuff like that. And I think we need to be whiter than white when it comes to stuff like that. We can't be carrying these 50% kind of investigation, potential fraudulent people, man. I'm not for that, man. Football can take one side. We need to have clean people on the board and within the club. But I know Levy's not the cleanest, so people are probably shouting at the screen saying what you want about. But you know what I mean, man.
Stellini alluded to potentially them working on some new things in training. He also said that Romain Mundle and Alfie Devine are ready to play. Do you think that we are going to see something different this weekend, and will we see the likes of Mundle and Devine against Brighton?
I think what we need, guys, what we've all seen in the last couple of weeks, and Conte alluded to it, Stellini's alluded to it when after Sheffield United, Kane alluded to it after the Milan exit, was energy, spirit, desire, teamwork, whatever you want to call it, all similar words. So what we do need is we need guys that are going to leave their hearts and lungs on the pitch. That's what I want to see utmost. I want to see these guys running around with commitment. I think some of those players from the last game, from Everton's game, could do with a little shake-up and a little reminder that, yeah, you might be starting because there's no one else to start because of the injury list. But I think it's always refreshing to see youngsters come on the pitch with 10 minutes to go, because they just rev up the crowd and they let the others know, look, I might not be taking your space today, but I might be taking it next season. So you better finish this season strong, because I'm looking to get in this first team on a regular basis. So I'm all for the youngsters, but obviously youngsters are naive, they're inexperienced, they make mistakes. I mean, we've seen youngsters make mistakes through the Tottenham Academy coming to the first team. And we know Conte didn't like playing the youngsters, whether it was Spence. Obviously, he gave, what's his name, a chance, didn't he? Pape Sarr in the end, in January and whatnot, before the World Cup, after the World Cup. So I think Spurs do need to start blooding some youngsters. But I think you've got to be smart, because in a high-intensity game where top four is at stake, experience is going to come into it as well. But what I don't like at the moment, guys, is this, and you guys have mentioned it, is this counter-press, negative, sit back and see what happens approach. What we saw at Everton with a man down. Do you know what I mean? I was watching that thinking, right, 2-0, or at least control the game and see it out. But this kind of going back a few yards, the mentality is an issue. The mentality is an issue, and we need some leaders to step up tomorrow. We need the Piers to match the talk. We need Skip to grow up and grow some balls. Not that he hasn't got any, but do you know what I mean? It's time to step up now. And we need some of these senior players like Perisic, who are here on a big wage on 180 grand a week. And the likes of Ben Davis. Obviously, I know he's injured at the moment. Longlay's a World Cup. He's played in the World Cup, for France. Come on, man. We're the leaders. I need to see leaders tomorrow. And I want to see these guys shouting at each other, man. I don't want to see heads drop after that first goal if we go 1-0 down. Need to see a little bit more fight on the pitch. And that's the lacking ingredient. And then obviously the bigger picture being the brand of football is shit. But that doesn't happen overnight, lads. We're not going to turn into anything better overnight from a brand of football perspective. For 2 years, they've been playing the same brand. Mourinho was playing a certain brand. The last time we all saw good football at Tottenham was Pochettino. So we're not going to, this brand of football ain't going to change. Anyone who's expecting us to have 65% possession, it's not going to happen this season. That's where the next manager comes in. And the other thing I will say, guys, just to add to that, is when we do choose this next manager, we need to look at the brand of football they bring. What we don't want to do is just be desperate to win trophies, because we don't want another Conte or a Mourinho if the football's going to be bad. And what we want is a manager that's going to have obviously a winning mentality, but he is going to deliver and practice and drill and turn these guys into players that can actually, all week on the training ground, actually play some possession football and bring it to the weekend. And I'm fed up of seeing Tottenham not being able to hold or control a game. And that's the biggest thing that annoys me, guys, at this Conte era. Because yes, we all thought we were going to win a trophy, but the football's been lacking. And I didn't think the football would be this bad. And I know you can't blame Conte all the way, because it's the players as well. But I think most people would agree that the brand of football has been poor, considering Conte's a winner. But we can go on all night about whose fault that is, whether it's the players or Conte himself.
Yeah, we most definitely can. But what is your score prediction?
I think it's going to be Spurs getting a couple of goals through set pieces, Harry Kane brilliance, as per normal. So we might get a pen or something from Harry Kane of a set piece. And I think we'll let in goals, because we do let in goals. And I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. But I think we're going to have to get ugly. Brighton haven't beaten a top 6 team for about, I don't know, when did they last beat a top 6 team? I can't remember. But
it depends. Would you say the classic top 6 or
any of the top 6 right now, like including us as well, obviously. Never beat them. We beat them
Liverpool,
last.
Did they? They beat Liverpool?
Oh yeah, but Liverpool.
Yeah, what was that, about 15 games ago? 12 games ago?
Yeah, they beat Man
Zerbi
United.
first came in,
They beat
wasn't
Man
it?
United first game of the season.
Yeah.
But you're right. Maybe they haven't beaten a lot of the.
I don't think
top
they've beat.
teams.
I've looked at their results only from a fantasy football perspective, because I look at these things, who's playing who on the weekend. I don't remember me taking a Brighton player out because they're playing a top 6 team for at least a couple of months. But I might be wrong. I don't think they've beaten a top 8 team or a top 6 team for about 2 months. But have a look at it. I'm pretty sure on that. So they have been beating teams in and around them or below them. So
Below them,
Brighton.
yeah, not really above them, I don't think.
Yeah, this is it. So, Brighton, yeah, they're good. Yeah, but listen, if you look at their last 8, 9, 10 results, They haven't beaten a top 6 or top 7 team. So we should go into this with a bit more confidence. You know, the fear shouldn't be like, oh my God, it's Brighton.
Though, Josh. Neither have we.
Yeah, exactly. But you'd argue that we've got players there which should be beating Brighton. You know, that's the argument, right? The players, the quality on the pitch, man. I know Sonny, and don't want to talk about Sonny too much because everyone's like kind of puzzled about that one. But the players on the pitch that we have should be beating Brighton, and they haven't beaten any big teams for a couple of months. So I'm saying 2-2. My heart obviously would say 3-1 or something like that. But I just think the counter press, we need to work out a way to play the counter press. We haven't got the silky feet of Bentancur. Really missed those silky feet of Bentancur, finding little pockets of space, finding those passes. Højbjerg needs to step up, turn into Javi. Skip needs to turn into Makaleli. And these boys just need to sort of like just somehow win it tomorrow, because then we are at the top 4. And that means less money. It means more bants, and it just means more depression, lads. And Thursday nights, which nobody wants.
Josh, always a pleasure to speak to you, my friend. And hopefully next time we'll speak to you, we'll be on the back of 3 points, but see what happens.
Have a good one, lads. Have a good day out, mate. See you later.
Nice one, Josh.
Cheers, mate. And we move on to the last guest of the day, and he goes by the name of KPV.
Hello again.
You all right, KPV?
Yeah, I'm still pissed from Monday. Like, you still don't poke people in the eye, man. Like, you don't do that. Still a violent conduct. Like,
absolutely.
Why was Kane booked? He didn't do anything. Like, he didn't do anything. Like,
wait. So that's what you're pissed off about, not the result. That's what you're pissed off about.
Well, I'm still pissed off a bit of both, my friends, because, like, we should be beating these lot. Like, we beat them at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium earlier in the season when I believe we won 2-0, Kane and Højbjerg, and Kane always scores against Everton, but Keane, like, we should have kept Forster in goal, because Laurie should not have come back in. He should have earned it, but he still came in. Like, you guys done a predicted lineup, and you predict Laurie was going to come straight back in, but big mistake, lad.
We didn't pick the team, Kyle. We just predicted. We got it right. It wasn't a mistake. It was one, actually, from our point of view.
Well, it still was
mistake
a
for Stellini. Not a mistake for us.
Well, who cares, man? Who gives a jabroni, fam? But yeah, like, but Brighton, they did beat Liverpool. They took 4 points off them. Trossard hat-trick earlier in the season at Anfield. Like, he scored a hat-trick. That was for Brighton. Like, he scored a hat-trick there. I think
How are we going to win, KPV, this weekend? Tell me.
How are we going to win? I don't know. People in the chat, how are we going to win, fellas? Like, I don't know how we're going to win. Like, we need to at least win. Like, I said to everyone on Twitter, if we get Conference League, then I'm saying goodbye to Tottenham. I'm leaving, man, because I don't want Thursdays again. That's not where we're
going nowhere, KPV.
I am, mate. I do not want Thursdays again.
Enough with these threats. You ain't going nowhere.
Well, I can, mate, because I hate Thursdays. That's not where we belong. It's where those lot at the top belong. We don't. Like, they've been taking
What's Thursday ever done to you?
Thursdays, I don't like Thursdays. We don't want to play Thursday night because we're going to have to do what those lot did. One game a week. Like, no thanks. I want Tuesdays and Wednesdays, not Thursdays, Sundays. No thanks. I want Tuesdays, Wednesdays. Like, I'm not having it. So
what's your score prediction?
Well, I told a friend Steve I'm giving up predictions like Gary Lineker did against Ajax. So I'm afraid 2-2, man. But like 2-2, man.
Doesn't sound like you're quite giving up just yet, then.
No, I'm not. Like Gary Lineker said ahead of the semi-final in Amsterdam, I've given up making Champions League predictions this season. But yeah, like, if we don't win tomorrow, then top four's gone. But like Pedro Porras said, there's 9 finals left. We have to stick together and win. But we should be beating Brighton because the Zerbi, obviously that was his first game. We won 1-0. Kane scored. I think it was an assist from Ronaldo. So, but I expect Kane, and I did say on Monday I needed Kane to score to get me FPL points. So I got that, but I need Kane to score again. So FPL points in a bag, man, because I'm below in our mini league. So I'm not gonna lose that many points. So who's the shit of the week? I believe it's Ben. Where's our FPL mini shows you guys bring on YouTube? We
All
haven't seen that.
coming soon to you, Platinum members.
All right, lads, I'm off, but I'm off to play FIFA. And the bad news is I can't watch any football at the moment because Sky have taken a piss out of me yet again. So I can't watch Spurs games until I get that sorted. So looks like I'm just gonna have to play FIFA and watch a DVD until then. So
What
but-
DVD?
Amsterdam, man, I've got Amsterdam. Remember, I've got the 9 Amsterdam fella. That's what I'm gonna have to watch. But I've got the white Xbox. They don't let you put DVDs in there, and they let you put in the black Xbox, Xbox One. They only let you put it in there. So
Oh, that's good.
but at least I'm going to continue watching that until, it's only the third time that Sky have taken a piss out of me and restricted, but internet's still working, but it's just the Sky.
I'd rather watch Amsterdam than Spurs, to be honest.
Well then, I suppose you lot better start watching the highlights on YouTube then, fella, because you lot went there, so...
I think we should have a party around KPV's house. Everyone come watch the group screening of the Amsterdam game. That's what I think.
Well, lads, I've got the DVD, so who's down to watch it? But I won't get in too much what's been going on lately, so anyway, I won't say too much because there's stuff private going on, but I won't say anything bad, so not to worry, people. Like, I'm off to who let the jabronis out, and Delaney did. So, but 2-2, and but I'm not watching it, as I said. But I hope we win tomorrow, man. Top 4 is still on the line, and we want that. So hopefully we get a win. And on this day in 2014, Kane scored his first Premier League goal.
Boom.
So happy anniversary to Harry Clark there, the rest, fam. I'm off. Peace out, people. And
Peace out,
as
KPV.
Levy sucks.
Big up,
That was
KPV.
Kyle.
Big up, KPV. A few super chats before we go. Jory says the back three don't trust Lloris playing out the back, so they are even less confident. Lloris and the back three have too many F-ups, so it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, maybe there's some truth to it. Look, I don't think Forster being there makes the midfield be more composed and not shit themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. But no, I do think there's some truth to it. I think Lloris didn't help the situation, that's for sure.
And Jaden, member for 7 months, says our season really died when Bentancur got injured. It's not hard. It's very hard to disagree with that
Yeah,
one.
well, it definitely played its part.
Yeah, but let's go. Bob Spur TV, just before we go, says, I'm not giving any predictions anymore. 4-1 Spurs tomorrow. See you later, people. Predicted lineup to come up next, but thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always...
Come on, you Spurs.